Hello, everyone. You are watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. Welcome. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. And today we have my special guest, Tanisha Peoples. Hey, Tanisha.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Maintaining during tough times.
That's all we can do. And so that's why I say we have to manage moment by moment, day by day. This is a new norm for us. And, we just got to take it one step at a day.
Oh, Christine, I can't hear you.
Um, because we can't figure out what's going to happen tomorrow, but we could definitely manage through today, right?
Right.
And so tell the people who you are and what you do.
I just ramble, so when it comes to talking about who I am, um, first, obviously I'm a black woman. I'm from the south side of Chicago, Inglewood, born and raised. Currently
Shout out
live
to
in
Chicago.
Yep, Chicago, Chi-Town representing. Currently live on the far south side of Chicago, in a community similar to where I grew up. Um, and yeah, I'm a hardcore activist. I ride for my people. I die for my people.
Sorry.
I've been doing this work for a number of years. I'm currently the deputy director of activist development with an organization called Bright Beam, and yeah, I'm just all about the activist life and the education life, the liberation of our Black and brown kids. So everything that comes under that umbrella, that's me.
Right. And
Yeah.
I met you on the in the trenches, on
Yeah.
the picket line at the Black Parent Strike in Sacramento. We was
Yeah.
out there like we are not backing down. We actually met a few times in Sacramento on in the trenches on the picket line,
Mhm.
fight for school choice, Black Parents Strike for school choice. And so it's real. Like people see the word activist and they wonder like what does that mean, and so instead of me trying to give them the what, I give them my why, and so it's all about generations, the future. What does that look like?
Mhm.
Challenging the systemic oppression and institutionalized racism that they have to live under,
Yeah.
and making sure that we push for systemic change, because you can see surface level is just talk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can
Absolutely.
talk around stuff and about stuff, but we talking about real change that's felt, the
Yeah.
impact of that. And
Yeah.
so talk about your journey and your why.
So the interesting thing is I never had a plan, right? So again, I grew up in Inglewood. The majority of my family graduated from high school. If they didn't graduate from high school, they may have gotten a GED, they may have dropped out. But the philosophy was, get whatever education you can get and just get a job and keep that job until you can retire. Um, so I had the fortune of being able to go to good schools outside of my community. Again, Inglewood is a low income, predominantly Black community. So you know what that comes with. That comes
Right.
with trash schools. That comes with trash elected officials. That comes with blight. It comes with it. Well, it's without a lot of stuff. And so I was able to test into those magnet schools and be exposed to a lot of different things, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different people, more experiences that I saw growing up. And so from there, I got the motivation to go to college. And so I went to undergrad, I went to grad school, and I knew that I had a passion for working with kids and uplifting kids, but I didn't really know where I should take that passion. And so
Right.
naturally, I went into the nonprofit sector and I started out on the social services side. And I enjoyed the work. It was draining, but it wasn't fulfilling. You know,
Mhm.
it wasn't completely fulfilling. And so I think the one thing, the why, and all activists have the why. We're propelled by some kind of self-motivating factor. And I
Right.
would I was managing an after school program in Evanston, which is a city a couple of miles away from Chicago. And while I was at work, someone broke into our building, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
drove home. It was about a 45-minute drive home. And I just had the thought, like, damn, like first of all, I feel threatened. I don't feel safe. I don't want to live like this,
Right.
where somebody's breaking into our houses while we go to work and stealing our stuff, the stuff that we worked hard for. And I'm just like, this ain't living, And
Mm-mm.
so I think that's where it clicked, where I got the idea that I have to still work with kids, but I have to empower them to be something greater than what the world has told them they should be or what they can be. And
Mm-hmm.
I need to work to change the trajectory of our communities, because if we keep going like this, it's ultimately going to be self-destruction. And
Right.
it won't be a great quality of life. It won't be anything that we can enjoy, and anything that we can work for, if we're in such a destitute position. And so I
Right.
transitioned from the social work side to the advocacy side. And
Mm-hmm.
in transitioning to that side, I got into educational advocacy, and I
Tanisha. Okay, so we're gonna wait a little bit. I'm sure that everybody understands that we're having technical difficulties. That's just during the day, no matter where you at. I experience them. And so, anyway, just talking about managing your day and being mindful and thoughtful of not trying to figure out what's going to come of tomorrow, not even making predictions, just taking it one step at a time. I do want to let you guys know that, you know, when I am watching, sometimes I don't have the ability to answer questions and comments. And so what I do is go back into the thread to answer those questions and comments. So anytime you leave them, just know that I am going to be going back, or you can always reach out to me on Facebook. You could always, email me at Christina@npunion.org, because I'm always willing to answer questions and just take those comments to heart. I'm accessible. Everybody that I work alongside of with National Parents Union is accessible. And so while we wait and see if Tanisha's going to come back up, I want to hear from you guys. I want to know how you're doing, right? When we first began this COVID-19 stay at home school closures, people were having high anxiety, very frustrated, very overwhelmed, not knowing what that was going to entail, not knowing what that was going to look like. And so now that we are made it this far, you need to be celebrating that that you have made it this far, right? And so don't worry about what's to come or when things are going to take place. Be happy that you made it this far. You're doing it. You're managing each day, and allow your kids to celebrate those small victories, right? What are the small victories in your house that have taken place? Okay, so I have a question from Bernita, and it says, tell us about advocacy and how parents use what they're feeling to advocate. Yes, we're definitely going to address that. I think we got Tanisha back. Hey, sister.
I am, you know what? That has never happened. I am disappointed in my internet. I got to get Xfinity on the line and just, go in. That has never happened.
Let me tell you something. On managing day to day, it happens all the time.
I was on the road too, and I'm just like, what happened?
You good? Yeah, and so go ahead and then we got a comment. It says, tell us about Bernita. Shout out to Detroit.
Hey, Bernita.
Tell us about advocacy and how parents use what they are feeling to advocate. So, definitely from my experiences, um, I saw things that were just out of line, right? I had worked in public education for 13 years. 6 of that was spent in early childhood education. 7 of that was spent in special education. So I knew intimately, I understood the system. I understood what I was seeing. And, when my kids started going to school in different places, I saw these huge issues. And I saw that there was no accountability, and they were not being addressed appropriately. And even if I spoke up loud for my kids, they would fix it for them. But I noticed that there were other parents and other children that were still struggling through the system, right? And so that became a huge problem to me, because I could yell all day. I could write people up, send letters to Office of Civil Rights and all of that stuff. But what about the other children? And then too, I saw the pattern that it would be resolved shortly, and then the next year I would have the same issue again. I'll be thinking, why am I still fighting this battle, right? Like my son, diabetic, I had to fight for his meal accommodations at school, and for him to be able to have a snack at 10 o'clock, and for him to be able to self-regulate and say, I'm not feeling well, or I'm feeling lethargic, or I'm feeling tired. And so when I saw the level of fight that I had to give, I was like, you know what? The everyday parent is not going to be able to understand what this looks like. And I am going to put my foot to the pavement and help as many people as I can. So that's my answer to that, in a very brief statement. We can talk about this all day. And so go ahead and take off where you left off, Tanisha.
Where did I leave off?
You were talking about how working in social services, it wasn't so serious. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know where Xfinity started acting a fool, but yeah. So long story short, because I know we on a limited amount of time, I wasn't fulfilled on the social services side. I felt like social services were enabling our people to stay complacent,
Right.
and limiting their ability to advocate for themselves. Because it's like, if we put a band-aid on these issues and make it seem like we're giving the resources and the supports that these communities need, then we keep them blinded to the fact that they deserve so much more. And so
Right.
that was part of the motivation for me switching over to the advocacy side, because it's like, no, we go release these crutches, we go snatch these band-aids off, and we go expose the truth, through empowerment. And so having real conversations, really equipping parents with the skills to do the research and the facts about what's really going on, so that ultimately they will be pissed off enough. And that's what it takes to be an activist, like you are pissed off, so that they will be pissed off enough to say enough is enough. Like we about to advocate for ourselves and get what we need. And so that's what it's I don't know if it's negative to say it's an adrenaline rush, but it's something that I thoroughly enjoy, because it's moving us one step closer to that freedom that everybody else is guaranteed. Exactly. And we deserve, that we haven't gotten. So and it's been difficult because I don't have kids, and so some people, I've gotten questions like, well, not necessarily questions, but there have been undertones in conversations in which I felt that people questioned my commitment because I didn't have kids. And it's like, I hate when people question my commitment and my experience, because you don't know me. You don't know where I grew up. Some people may know where I grew up, but you don't know what I've gone through, what I've seen, how I see my people struggle. And I don't need to have kids for all the kids in my community to belong to me, which they do. And if we all adopt that mentality, whether the child is biologically ours or, whatever, if we all adopt the mentality that all of these kids belong to us, then we will be motivated to advocate for them. So all of these kids are mine, all of them.
That's what I
can't pay for all of them, but they belong to me.
I can't pay for all of them.
I can't pay for them.
It's okay though, because there's different types of wealth, right? And so we're not talking about financial wealth. We're talking about the wealth that you bring it back to the children that are in the community. And I will have to say that when we say all, we mean it. right?
Right.
And other people
Right.
say, oh, they don't mean it. That's just a term that's loosely thrown around. Like, oh, we talking about all kids. Really? Are you? Because I know a
No.
whole bunch of them that you're not talking about.
That's that all lives matter mentality that people want to take on when they need allies. But when it's about their kids, it's like, no, our kids matter, yours don't really matter. So that's, and we've had those conversations too, Christina, where we've
Yeah.
been confronted by, those all lives matter activists. But when it's time to stand up for black and brown kids, it's crickets. No, no,
Right. I know.
no, not at
And,
all.
and that's why I got to the point where, those people was coming so much for us. Like, I was like, just be quiet while grown folks talking, because I can't, go somewhere, because we are talking about what is happening. They like to talk around us, about us, but not
Mm-hmm.
directly to us. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you say all, then the burden of proof is on you. Prove it. Okay.
Right.
Because the
Right.
data don't prove it, our experiences don't prove it. Even if you talk to the kids and the parents, you can't prove it there. And so the burden of proof back on you, prove it, right?
Exactly.
Which is not gonna happen. And so I like the fact that you said, I don't have kids, but my heart is in this.
Yeah.
And I would call that adrenaline, what you call adrenaline, zealousness, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
passion, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that feeling. Like, even when I try to say, there's been days, I gotta let y'all know, America, there's been days where I'm like, forget it. I'm just not even gonna do
Yeah.
nothing. And I'll get 3 phone calls, and it's like, okay, I was just playing. And so those days happen. So how do you manage through the time that's rough when people are saying to you, you don't have kids, why you care about the kids so much? Why you fighting so hard? Why you doing this? What is your strategy that may be able to help other people keep being unrelenting?
I mean, the mantra that I've taken on recently is if not me, then who? You know,
Right.
and so again, all these kids belong to me. They belong to all of us. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've just become more unapologetic in my advocacy. In really understanding white supremacy culture and white supremacy constructs and oppression and lacking self-worth, and how that has been really embedded in us to keep us in a place of subserviency and, in a place of oppression and post-traumatic slave syndrome, all those things. And so
Right.
really, really trying to unlearn all of that to empower and uplift my people helps me block out the noise,
Right.
and really focus on the work that I was called to do, the work that I'm passionate about, and the work that I'm gonna die doing. There have been many times throughout my career or throughout my life where I want to quit, because it's not easy work. And that's why it's like when we have people that claim to be activists, but they really not about this life, it's like prove it, and
Right.
you're not willing to risk it all for what needs to be done, then you're not a real activist.
Mm-hmm.
And so there have been times where it's just like, man, the stress that I'm under, the criticism that I'm under is not worth it. But you can't ignore that passion in your heart and that drive in your spirit to again liberate our community. So you can't leave it. It's like a relationship. You can't leave it.
Right.
Like we married. And so you keep going in it because it's what we have to do if we want to see our communities better. Because again, we deserve better. And if
Yeah.
we're not doing that work, then who's going to do it? And not to say that there aren't other people out there doing the work, and that ultimately, as a people, we don't want better. But there has to be somebody driving that work and leading
Mm-hmm.
that charge, because again, we've been told since we landed on these shores that we can't, and that
Right.
we're not deserving. So
Right.
we have to be the chain breakers. You
Right.
know, we have to
Right.
be the chain breakers.
And so I appreciate that about you. You speaking my language, right? And,
All the
and,
time.
we can have these conversations forever. One thing that you taught me, right, over the time of from the time I met you to now, is that activists can take a break.
Yes.
Because I remember you asked me, Christina, do you really do 24/7? Like what?
24/7, 368 days, because you done added your own days to the year.
I got
Just
my own
going.
calendar. Right?
I'm like, Christina, rest.
Right.
Like, you can rest. It's okay.
And I was like, how, Tanisha? Like, and you was like, set some office hours. I was like, what? You know, that was a foreign thing to me. So I appreciate that part, that you're really balanced and thoughtful and intentional in your approach. And then just even helping me be like, okay, I can actually lay down my javelin and my sword for a minute and just step back and refocus and rethink. And so, you know, having a community of activists to lead the work is really helpful. But I want you guys to understand as well that anybody can, you know, take this passionate desire and ability and push for change. Every generation should do better than the last, right? We're talking about generational structural changes. It don't take an expert. It just takes a person that's willing to be unrelenting and consistent, and not back down and not give up. I always be like, I'm about to start a California Black Parent wildfire. Don't get me started.
Yes. Love starting fires.
Right.
Love starting fires. Love starting stuff. Yep.
And so, you know, I also see your passion come through your writing, you know, and, you know, tell people where they can find your articles at.
So you guys can find me on the Education Post website. That's educationpost.org. My column is called Hope and Outrage. And so it's, again, it's what it takes to be empowered and, you know, empower people. So it takes hope for you to see that light at the end of the tunnel, to understand that your work is not in vain and that, you know, you can accomplish your goals. But it takes that outrage to, again, start that fire, to
Right.
where you have the passion to even fight. So that's why it's called Hope and Outrage. And I try to have real talk conversations that are relevant to our communities, conversations that aren't so wonky. I mean, to be honest, I don't care for data. I've never been a data analyst. I've never been a person that's just like, oh, what the numbers say, because I believe heavily in qualitative data. I believe
Right.
heavily in the stories of our people and our experiences as qualified enough to, you know, be considered substantive data. So those are the stories I like to tell. Those stories I like to talk about, the things that people missed that they miss in my Hope and Outrage column. And I hope that you know, it inspires conversation, it inspires activism, because we need it. You know, like when you talked about self-care earlier, we are dying doing this work. You know, sis in Oakland, her name escapes me, but she died doing this work with a
Yep.
heart condition and all. You know, and so that balance is important, but we also need people fighting with us, because we
Yes.
can't carry this load on our own. And so that's what I hope to do in my column, is to inspire people to get involved and really understand the issues, because education has always been put on the back burner, and we need to bring it to the forefront, because that is the foundation that's going to determine our kids' failures or success.
And you know, you have People's Voice podcast.
Yep.
And so people can find that too. Where can they find that at? Is that attached to your Education Post article?
So that is not. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter at People's Choice 85, I believe that's my handle. It's people something. All peoples, all E's, no O's. So PEEPLES. If you look it up, and it's an avatar with me, you can't miss the dark skinned girl with the blonde fro. So follow me on Twitter, and that's where you can find all of my platforms with Hope and Outrage and People's Voice, and just me talking crazy on the Twitter feeds. My Facebook profile is also public. You know, I have no chill sometimes, so I keep it
Right.
real. Christina knows that, so make sure y'all follow me and engage with me, so we can keep the party going and keep the movement going.
And I always be like, you good, Tanisha, don't even worry about it. You know, you good. You know, I have my level of drama and eccentric stuff too, that I know people be like, but I'll be like, oh, well, we just, you know, we like one big family, you know, and we need people to, like you said, get involved, because we do need support. We take hits that people don't even understand or even know about. And we're doing this for the children for their
Mm-hmm.
future so that they can have a hope and a future, you know, and
Exactly.
not one that looked like our grandma and grandpa's future, the past,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
so, you know, we want to see something shift. And even if we got to marshal a new era in, we're going to do that.
Oh yeah.
By any means
I'm all,
necessary.
we always down for a revolution. Always.
But it requires a revolt to have a victory. And a lot of people, like, you know, still like want to steer away from the word revolution, but that is really a transformation, right? And so it's not a negative thing, right? Just like
Right.
the word disruption. Really, if you're in the business world, disruption is a good term. Like you want to enter into the marketplace disruptively if you want your product or services to make it and thrive. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to begin to shift our mentality and our thinking about certain things that we've been taught. I'd say that, you know, colonized to believe,
Yeah.
and just see things for what they are and where we're headed. And speaking of
Yeah.
where we're headed, before we close, what do you know, what's your biggest takeaway from right now and being able to move forward in your activism during this pandemic?
So I would say honestly, like this pandemic is tough on all of us, especially Black communities that have been hit the hardest, brown communities, and the impacts are gonna last way beyond the pandemic, society. But what I've seen as a silver, well, not necessarily a silver lining, but let's just say an opportunity is this is really a time, if people weren't aware of the disparities before, we're seeing them now. And so for me, this isn't time to activate our communities around what we need. And so while people are thinking about tomorrow, I am actually thinking about months from now, years from now, when we have the opportunity to turn things around for our communities. And it's going to take conversations, and it's going to take education, and it's going to take activism. And so I've had my hands in many pots, and I'm having
Right.
so many conversations around now is the time to reshape
Mm-hmm.
our future and to reclaim our lives and to rebuild our community. And so that's why I am doing this pandemic. It hasn't been easy because again, I'm over here trying to survive myself. But as activists, we're in gear 24/7, you know? So even when we're trying to sleep, we thinking of ways to promote our communities and promote voices and, uplift. So this is the time. This is the time while people are kind of being still and have the opportunity to listen. This is the time to really put the word on the streets.
And you know, sis, we want you to survive too. So, I get it
God
though,
willing.
and we don't want to die from this work, but we probably gonna die doing it, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I totally agree. Just having that understanding and that support system. I always got your back. I know you got mine. So I appreciate you coming and sharing, about your why. And if you have a final word for the people watching, can you please go ahead and get that?
Hey, that's what I got for the people watching.
That's right. All right. And you got that's my favorite Dare shirt on. So y'all,
Yes.
look, we daring you to be bold and,
Yes.
and be an activist, right?
Yes.
All of our children are worth it and they deserve it. And so I will see you guys. Thanks for coming, Tanisha.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me, sis.
I'll see you again. I will see you guys anytime. That's what we do. And so you have been watching Managing Day to Day with Christina Laster, me, and National Parents Union. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. I will see you guys again tomorrow, same place, same time on the National Parents Union Facebook page live. Goodbye, America's beautiful children. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.